It's a new day and I'm back at it once again with bed. I started out by calling it bed day and it's turned into, I don't know, bed week. I am cutting some 1x2s right here to help support the bed frame. And then I'm also, I think, going to need a 1x4, I think, for lateral support here. But the one thing I'm concerned about is where the two panels come together in the center there. If I'm going to have enough strength to support everything. So I'm going to just sort of start piecing things together and see how it goes today. I do have a helper because Andy arrived last night, but unfortunately he's sidelined by a migraine this morning. So I'm going to do what I can until he's feeling better, and then we'll keep going. Tag team. It'll be nice to have a buddy, a partner, someone to help me with some of this work. But I'm proud of what I've done so far by myself, but definitely excited to have somebody to help me out. I'm a little tired of climbing up and down. My feet. The good thing is that these lift now pretty easily now that they're all attached together. And I did temporarily at least give up on the hinge until I get the rest of the bed put together, because I was really frustrated with that yesterday, as you probably noticed. Come with me. If I am going to add the 1x4, I don't want it sitting on top of this piece of wood because then it doesn't provide as much support. I actually want it sitting on this piece and then drilled in here, if that makes sense. Well, yeah, I'm still figuring that out. And this one comes back over here. Try not to fall out of the bed. So it looks like I've got about 3/8 of an inch. Probably just enough to get that 1x4 in there. Let me crawl under and check that spacing. But yeah, I'm starting to look a little bit more stable. I'm a little bit worried about collapsing in the center of the bed when both of us are there. Alright, so these are right there and right there. I don't know if you can see me, but I did not plan to attach the hinge to this. But I'm kind of wondering if maybe that would be a good idea, just in the center, and then on the ends, I don't know, because this will need to rotate when we lift it, and I don't like that idea, so maybe not. All right, this is just extra 1x2. I'm going to use as a proxy for the 1x6 just to check fit, and right there, pretty damn near perfect. Nothing works out like that. Nothing works out like that. Okay, so these are cut now. They look like a pretty good fit. And before I attach everything, I'm going to go ahead and at least prime these. This finished board I'm going to paint white because I think my cabinets will be white. I definitely don't want it to have to be unfinished or stained right now. So I'm going to go ahead and get them primed, and then I'll get all of this attached together later today or tomorrow and hopefully have a bed. Because yeah, pushing on this, there's like no give at all, which is nice. And then hopefully with that and the extra strength in the middle, we'll be in good shape. While I am waiting for the primer to dry on those boards for the bed, I'm going to go ahead and do some work on these areas here, which are going to get 2x6s as part of the framing process. And as you can see, I put notes here everywhere along the top where I need to actually drill out in order to put a 1/4x20 pre-bulbed plus nut. I've decided I'm just going to standardize on that size, even though there's 3 different sizes in the van, 3 different sizes that could be used. That seems to be the size that's easiest to get, and it's a good size to work with. It's not too big. So I've marked where I'm going to put these in between the openings here, and I've got to drill those out. And then what I need to do is actually prime those holes. So I do need to put insulation here, but I noticed when I was doing some drilling around the bed and putting in the 2x4 putting in that 2x4, that the screws or the bolts were getting caught up on the insulation. So I'm going to go ahead and get those plus nuts in up here before I put the insulation in. And then I've already cut all of the 1x6s. I did that last week when I had some free time just to do a small project. So they're all cut, they're numbered, they're ready to go in. I just need to get that moving and then insulate, and then I'll be able to start some framing projects, which will be another big step, another milestone to actually start the real framing in the van. And as I mentioned before, I've lost a lot of the insulation. I'm going to go ahead and either do that as I frame or as I put up my wall paneling to make sure it's in there and secure. So rather than redoing it and have it fall out again, I just had lightly spray glued it with this Gorilla Glue that it says heavy duty, but it doesn't last super well when it's with the wool. So anyway, it's good for holding in a position just sort of temporarily, but then after a few days it just sort of starts to fall. So that's fine. I've got the pieces cut. I've got plenty more wool. I've got lots and lots more wool. I think I might have overbought. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start working on screwing those holes up in that angle part and get that piece of the project moving along. This is the primer that I'm using whenever I cut a hole in the van. Try not to cut too many of them, but when I do, I'm using this high performance clean metal primer. And then I've also learned that Q-tips instead of paintbrushes work great for just sticking inside a hole just like that and just doing a little bit of dab of paint around there. So that's how I'm going to take care of those raw holes. We are back at it today, and Andy is over there on the porch getting some paint ready to fill the holes, that the first hole that we made for a plus nut up there. We've got a whole bunch more to go, and we've got the batteries removed from the wheel well box on this side, and I am getting ready to put the panel up there behind the wheel well, and then we'll reinstall the wheel well box, reinstall the batteries, and get on to the next thing. All right, so we're fitting the panel in here, and we've cut this down so the wires can come out, and we're not quite clearing that. So we need to, I think if we mush this around and mush the insulation up behind, that we can get this to fit down there. Yeah, the other one was 1/4 inch, and this is 3/8, so it's a little, you're caught again. Right there. All right, we got the panel up, so we have 2 garage walls and batteries reinstalled and wiring ready to go. And I just need to finish my wiring, electrical, what do you call that? Electrical panel to go in there. And we are lamenting the limited amount of space that we are going to have under here. But oh well, what are we going to do?
It's time to start shopping for expedition trailers. And hitches.
No. And now that the garage work is mostly done and I've got paint drying over there, those are the boards that'll go on the front and back of the bed. And hopefully later today or tomorrow I can put the bed together. But the project we're working on in between is drilling the holes and inserting the plus nuts up here. So we're going to go ahead and tag team on getting those done, and hopefully before the end of the day we will have all of the wood up on that funny little angle. As we are drilling holes to put plus nuts in up here at the top, we are finding that the metal gets disfigured, for lack of a better word. It's leaving little tabs there that we have to file off. We don't have a Dremel. I do have a file, but it's really not fun. We just had to check in from Mom to see how we're doing. And we're actually making good progress. We've got all the holes drilled along up here, primed. Well, first we filed down all the burrs, then we primed, and then we've got the plus nuts in, and now we're going through and putting in the insulation. And after that, we can start to put up the wood for the framing.
And we affectionately named all the burrs Aaron.
A little bit more. Oops, this channel stops right here, so I don't need a real big piece. And I have actually, the light was here, the OEM light that opens when the slider comes out, and I just was able to pop that out and take it off the cable. There's a little connector right here, like that, and it just snaps onto the light. And the light actually, if you just kind of squeeze the housing, it pops out. It took me a little while to figure out that. It's got some tabs, and I was trying to figure out how to get under there with a trim tool or something, but then I realized when I just squeeze the housing a little bit, the brackets pop and the light comes out, and you can disconnect this. I have set it aside so that I can reuse it, because I would like to have a light come on when I open the door, and I don't know if I'll reuse that housing and mount it further out or mount it inside a cabinet, or if I will just use this wiring to attach a different light or some LED lights. I'm gonna figure that out, but for now I'm just kind of setting this aside to hang on to it. Okay, the insulation for the top transition area between the wall and the ceiling is done, and the plus nuts are in, so we're ready to put up our wood. I measured and pre-cut all of these pieces, and I don't know if you can see, I just numbered with a pencil each one all the way around, so I know what piece is what piece. And then last night, while Andy was finishing up the holes, I made a template for each one, just out of the carpentry paper that I've been using, construction paper, I don't know what you call this. Anyway, I've made this so that it fits the board, just so. And then what I can do is actually tape this up and punch holes through where the holes need to be for the plus nuts, and then I can transfer those markings to the board, pre-drill them, and then put these up with the bolts. So it should be pretty easy to go up once I have all the holes drilled. So I'm going to work on that next. So I'm getting ready to mark the holes for the plus nuts here. This first piece is a little bit different than the others because I have that wire coming out that is also going through the top there. That's for my fan. I think what I'm going to do, since almost all my wiring is through this channel, is to rerun that here and up along the side. That way I won't have to drill a hole in my wood, and I can just leave a little space for it right there at the end. Sorry about the noise. The neighbor's lawn guy is here. Typically use a pencil and trace. You feel with your fingers where the plus nut is there. And like I mentioned in my other video, when I was doing the wood for the bed, I screwed from the outside in to where the plus nut was. And what happens is, if your plus nut's right here and you're off at all, you're going to miss it. So I'm actually going to mark the holes on the back side of the wood and drill from the inside out. And that way, even if I'm off a little bit, my bolt will end up in the right place and line up with the plus nut here. I had to come hide in the garage because the yard men are so noisy. I was getting ready to drill and then go ahead and bolt in those pieces of wood, the 2x6s, and I realized that I have 1.5 inch bolts that I'm not a fan of electronic gardening. Make it stop. I could go hide in the bathroom. Maybe it's not going to stop. Anyway, I hope you can hear me. The plus nuts I have are 1/4 thread, 1/4 inch 20 thread. And so I need a 1/4 inch 20 thread bolt. I've got 1.5 inch, and then I've also got the 3 inch bolts that I used along the bed frame, but these are a little bit too long. I'm afraid if I put those in, they're going to actually bump into the wall of the van, and I don't want that to happen. So I've got another trip to the hardware store in the near future, but right now I'm just going to go ahead and work on marking and drilling those holes, and then in a little bit when Andy's ready to go, we'll take a run up to Ace and hopefully be able to get what we need. So that is typical day in the life of a van build. All right, I have successfully put the holes in all those pieces of wood. So I've got everything I need to go all the way around the top, except for the right bolts. So I am about to head to Ace and cross my fingers because they're like way closer to quarter of the way, or quarter of the distance that it would be to go to Lowe's. So I'm going to run to Ace, and hopefully they will have the 1/4x20 bolts in maybe a 2 inch size, give or take 1/4 inch. I think will be fine, and I don't have to pack up the whole van to go, which is really nice. That's been a bit of a challenge when I've been here by myself, but Andy brought my trusty Subaru back, so I get to hop in that old steed, and get that done and then hopefully get back and get those up. So when we got to Ace, we decided to try these hex bolts. I've heard that they are easier to use and to take in and out than the Phillips head bolts, partially because there's less risk of stripping, but this head does not press into the wood very well, so I'm going ahead and routing that out with this kind of a drill bit, and I've just marked the depth that I need to go to. So I'm going back and actually drilling out each hole right here before we go ahead and put it up with wood glue. So there is the hole ready to accept the bit, or the bolt. All right, and there you can see that the bolt's gonna fit flush on that piece of wood. We are getting dangerously low on this precious liquid. One thing about working in Florida, the bugs are biting.